You're listening to the Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast, and I'm Lou Temlett. I'm guessing you're having a good day because either you've been on the mats, considering getting on the mats, or maybe you need more fight in your game. I'm so happy you're here listening or watching this episode. Please don't tap out before the end. When you discover you need more fight in your martial arts, start training Jiu Jitsu. I'd like to welcome Jade Barker to my podcast. Hi Jade, how are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's an absolute pleasure. I know we've been in contact for a while, and I can't wait to hear your story and hear about how martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has been for you and how you've kind of progressed your game. So maybe it would be great to start at the beginning and talk me through your first experience of martial arts.
Yeah, so I started Taekwondo when I was 5. So I actually started, my mum took me to ballet. And very quickly I said I didn't want to do it, wasn't happy, and I think I'd lasted one session and that was that. I then spoke to my dad about it, and he was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Oh, I want to be a Power Ranger." And he was like,
"Oh my gosh, amazing!"
Yeah, that was legit it. So he said, "I could take you somewhere then where you can learn to be a Power Ranger." So I went to the local Taekwondo school, and yeah.
Okay, I need to ask before you carry on. I need to know what color Power Ranger you actually wanted to be.
Have a guess.
Oh, I don't know. I want to say the red one.
Of course, yeah. It was the red one.
Oh, good guess. So your dad took you along to your first Taekwondo lesson and the ballet went nowhere.
Yeah, I think my mum bought me the shoes and that was as far as it went.
Oh, it's so challenging as a parent when, you know, your children, you want your children to take part in some physical activity, primarily because all of the other kids are doing stuff. But actually we know it's good for young children to be involved in a club activity that's outside of school. My experience is in dancing. I didn't get involved with ballet, but I'm really pleased that you took up the role as, you know, progressing towards your Red Power Ranger status.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me more about how you found your first kind of Taekwondo session, if you can draw your memory back.
I actually hated it. It was just very scary. Like, it wasn't like I hated what we were doing. I was just very scared. And from what I can remember, at the time, the class was very busy. It wasn't like there was loads of little kids my size in there. There was a lot of bigger kids. And I remember the instructor had to sort of walk me in and hold my hand, and he sort of had to sort of stand at the back with me and that sort of thing. And that continued for a good few sessions. And then after that, that's when it eventually I was able to go in on my own and stuff like that. And then from there, I just sort of flourished in it. But it was that, my mum sort of jokes about it now. She's like, "Oh, do you remember when you used to have to walk in holding," his name was Mr. Bailey, Mr. Bailey's hand and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay, so from your Taekwondo days and feeling more confident on the mats, how did your journey progress and kind of finding your bravery at such a young age?
So I sort of I met a lot of friends there. I had there was quite a lot of older kids that were trainee instructors, so I sort of really looked up to them and things like that. I had a really good handful of instructors there as well, and I still sort of think the world of now. And actually, my last Polaris match, as I was walking down the catwalk thing, as I was entering, my old coach was there, and I saw him.
Wow.
And I was so happy just to see him. He does jiu-jitsu now, so yeah, so it was really cool, to have him there, sort of thing. But yeah, I was just very fortunate just to have some really good coaches, and the fact I just enjoyed it as well obviously made a huge difference. And I was competing a lot, obviously doing my gradings. When I sort of started competing, and at the time you had these really massive trophies, I was like, oh, I want them. So yeah, that was just sort of and to be honest, I was just very natural at it as well. So I was very lucky the sort of, and like typically all my friends that were there were all older boys. They were all siblings, so it's almost like I was almost suddenly like a little sister to all these boys as well.
Oh, cute.
So it was like, yeah, it was like really nice. Like, I had a really good time doing it, which definitely
Yeah,
helped. And they were all really like genuinely like really good at it as well. So that sort of
yeah.
combination all together, it really worked for me at the time.
I think it's so important to find something that we are, kind of personally good at a young age. We can go through school and clubs and things like that. And if it really helps our own kind of self esteem and well being and just strength and resilience for the future. If you know
Mm,
you're something really good at something as a kid, whether you continue it or not in your adult life, you've reinforced that mindset that you can be good at something. And I think, picking up the trophy as
yeah.
a martial artist so young must have just been incredible for you.
Yeah, it was one of them that like I remember like taking to like my like school assembly and stuff like that and showing it, and everyone obviously thought like I was really tough like and all that sort of thing. But yeah, do you know what, it was, I think in general it really shaped my life. And I sort of
Yeah,
think that of any kids that sort of start, not necessarily just martial arts, I think it's sort of sports in general, but
yeah,
I do feel like martial arts just, there's something about it that's a little bit different to other sports, I think.
yeah. Absolutely. And I think it is that combat kind of scenario. It's that one to one, but also that group scenario. For me, dancing was very, it was always partner dancing,
Mm,
or disco dancing. So it's very much isolated. So it didn't really have that scope that I feel like my children are experiencing now. It's just a bigger network and community. And I know, it's been mentioned by so many of my guests that it's really given them a sense of community and being part of something much bigger. Did any of your family have any experience in martial arts?
my dad like just done some bits and bobs like growing up. Like I think he done like a bit of aikido and things like that. And
Yeah,
yeah, but not like too much. Like he was very much like watched all the films, like Bruce Lee films and stuff like that. And
yeah,
obviously because he watched it, I watched it, and everything like that.
yeah.
So it was very much like, yeah, I just wanted to be like that. Whatever I was like, whatever cool thing I was watching, I wanted to do that. So
Amazing. You've just brought back some memories then. I remember seeing MacGyver and all the things like that. And I'm going, I want to, fly a helicopter or a plane and just know how to wire it to be able to start the engine.
yeah,
I've not quite achieved that.
yeah, I know. I don't think I'll get there either, to be fair.
So transitioning from Taekwondo through to other martial arts, what came next? Because you kind of um, trained and competed in Taekwondo for quite a number of years. Tell me a bit about
Mm.
that and then the transition.
Yeah, so I started watching MMA like I want to say 13, 14. So I started watching it, and I remember my dad actually showed me. He was like, "You've got to watch this fighting. Like he's like, this is ultimate fighting." I think he kept on calling it. He was like, it's like real," and I was like, "What?" Like, and I watched it, and I was just like, "I want to do that." So from that age, I was like very much like, I sort of realized that like Taekwondo, it was like the point scoring stuff like that. It was like a very like pure martial arts sort of thing. And if
Yeah,
I'm honest, like it wasn't like I wanted to fight people. Like, I didn't want to do a Taekwondo tournament and score points.
yeah,
Like, and after I saw this MMA fight, I was like, I just actually want to do that. So as I was sort of like that sort of age, I was like, oh, maybe I can do kickboxing, maybe I can do boxing. And I remember my Taekwondo instructor at the time, he was very much like, oh, what's the point in that? Like he saw sort of no benefit in it at all. He just wanted me to sort of obviously stick with Taekwondo. And as time went on, I was just like getting more and more into MMA, really liking it. And then I actually found somewhere up the road when I was 17 that had done MMA. So I went along, and I think I was still doing. Oh no, I was still doing Taekwondo at this time. Like I sort of left
mm,
it like quite I did sort of do the transition, almost like a bit of an overlap. So I was doing a couple of Taekwondo sessions a week and then going to this MMA club. And at the time, I thought it was really great, like this club, but it was like a little bit of the guy was like known locally for being a little bit of a con man. But either way, I thought like I was in the right
Yeah.
place. So
Yeah.
yeah, then eventually Taekwondo just sort of fizzled out, and I sort of went into MMA. But because obviously
Yeah.
then this guy was a bit dodgy, the place closed like near enough. Like I was only there for like 2 months, not very long at all. And then
Yeah.
thankfully I had someone from that club said, "Oh, we're actually going to go and train with this guy called Colin." So Colin Howells,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, so um, he does jujitsu and he does like a little bit of striking and stuff as well. So then that was it. So then I went to meet Colin, and yeah, the rest is history from there, I guess.
Oh my goodness. What, I mean, apart from the fighting, what else did MMA give you? More kind of, more over than Taekwondo, aside from the obvious things that it's just fighting people.
I think it makes me sound like a thug, and I'm not. I think like watching it, it was like that element of like that it was almost like more of the real thing.
Yeah.
And I think like over time, like that sort of watered down like martial arts sort of like style of you're sort of like a little bit disillusioned to a lot of stuff, I feel. And then as
Right.
time went on, you sort of start seeing like jujitsu, you start seeing MMA, you sort of realize that your little martial art that you used to do isn't quite where it's at, and like it's not quite like
Uh,
as effective as what you once thought, and stuff like
yeah.
that. That was how I really sort of saw it. And especially when I
Yeah.
started training jujitsu, and it's like it was just a very completely different world. I remember like my very
Yeah.
first session training with someone who was like, at the time I was only young, I was only 17, and I was training with this
Mm,
guy, and he was like really skinny, quite short, and I remember thinking, oh, this will be easy. Like, look at the size of him, and then obviously, you know how it goes in jiu-jitsu, and then
yep.
that massively sort of opened my eyes as well.
Yeah. That's amazing, and I think that's one of the things that is the eye opener. That it doesn't matter what size you are and your opponent, you could still overthrow them. Um,
Mm,
I'm always watching movies with the kids, and you can pick up and see that they're doing certain moves from Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I don't necessarily know much of the kind of the grappling MMA stuff, but you can see some of the techniques, and it appears everywhere. And I think that's
yeah,
one of the great things with kids growing up, being able to see some of these things. And if they're training it as well, you can identify what's going on around you. Um, Hopefully not in the streets necessarily, but in movies and other things. And I think seeing stuff on screen is really quite inspirational. And it
mm,
sounds like you grow your dreams and ambitions from being able to see the thing and then go, I want a slice of that. I want to be like that.
yeah. I am very
How
much like
has what other things have you approached in that way, and you've kind of got your sights fixated on to achieve?
To be honest, it's the sort of thing, like even when I'm sort of watching, just even sort of like grappling matches or like MMA like fights and stuff like that. Like I always used to watch like Anderson Silva or like BJ Penn. And I used to be like, I want to be like them. And Anderson
Yeah.
Silva was like so good at striking and stuff like that. So I sort of like based like my movement and stuff like a little bit around his, and then I was like added my own thing into it
Yeah.
from that. And like I love
Nice.
the fact that BJ Penn was so gifted at jiu-jitsu, and that's how like I've always wanted to be, like that sort of thing. And yeah, even now, like if I watch the other day I was watching the Craig Jones Invitational, and like I saw something very like minor, and then like that like day I like went to go and roll, and I like done it, and I'm like,
Nice.
yeah, my boyfriend was like, you only watched that like 10 minutes ago, like, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah, just try it, like, I just see it and try it. So yeah, I definitely would say never sort of really thought about it, but I guess I am very visual in that sense.
That's so good. And actually now you're kind of aware, you could set yourself up before matches and and I think it's inspirational as well for other people to be able to identify that that's how they operate. You know, if you see
Mm,
something, you kind of get that fire and then you want to go and do that thing.
yeah,
And it's great when you get the opportunity, you know, with you in the same day, being able to go and pull that move.
yeah,
Um,
100%. Yeah, I just think why
it's
not
so
try it?
good.
Yeah, worth trying.
This is a Jiu Jitsu Lou podcast with me, Lou Temlett, coming to you from the UK. Go and check out the latest video clips over on ju.jitsu.lu on Instagram. Do you run or own a martial arts school or gym, brand or event series? How would you like to feature on a slot on my new show, Double Mic Takedown podcast, where you have the opportunity to talk with passion and integrity? You'll be joined by fellow gym owners, brand and event owners, and operators, reaching a whole new audience in the UK and around the world. Take this opportunity to join the community by visiting voxiferistudios.com, VOXIFERI studios.com. Today, I'm having a conversation with Jade Barker. Jade, now you've spoken about your transition from Taekwondo to MMA. Tell me about your Brazilian Jiu Jitsu journey now that you're a brown belt.
Yeah, so I was obviously started training with Colin when I was 17. So I was really lucky, to be honest, like in the sense of like he's a great coach, but he's also a great friend. So in
Yeah,
general, it's sort of always been nice to sort of have him, sort of like by my side, sort of through everything, like in the gym and outside as well. So it's been really good. But my jiu-jitsu journey in general has actually been very on and off. Obviously, I
okay.
like started with him. We was training in a little gym at Fitness First, like a little section of that. Then our gym that we train at now, Gym O1, opened. So Colin was the head coach of Jiu Jitsu there. So obviously I moved over with him. But obviously because they were doing like kickboxing, MMA, everything like that, that was how, like my like entry point into all those little things. So I was
Yeah,
able to do kickboxing. I fought semi-pro kickboxing, and obviously I fought like amateur MMA and then went into pro. So my jujitsu journey really did take a bit of a back seat. You know, every now and again, I was getting a little bit like, a bit bored. I just need a little bit of a break from MMA. I'd
yeah,
jump in jujitsu for a little bit and stuff like that. So it's not been as like steady as I wanted it to be.
yeah,
But at the same time, I sort of feel like that time away from it and then coming back now as like slightly older, when the game's like progressed a lot more as well,
mhm,
it's given me a whole new appreciation of the martial art in general, and and seeing how much it's progressed. So I literally went from like MMA. I stopped MMA when I was 30, and then I think like a year or so later, I went to my first Polaris match, and I walked in and I like just saw this event and I was like, oh wow, like how this has changed from that little thing I
yeah,
was like doing in at Fitness First in that little room. And I think from there I was I remember my boyfriend at the time, he said he was like, look, like you've done really good in MMA, you got to as far as you could. He was like, why not
yeah,
see how far you can get in jiu-jitsu? And I was like, yeah, let's do that. So that's why now I've just really put everything into
yeah,
jiu-jitsu. Of course, I wish I like did sort of just stick it out that time, but I had to scratch the
yeah.
itch for everything else.
Yeah, it sounds like the MMA and all of the other kind of martial arts have given you that foundation, and I think that's the same for many of us. But how has that influenced your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu kind of progress? Has it given you additional techniques? Is your game different? Talk to me about how you kind of approach things like that, the
Yeah,
competitions.
that's quite interesting actually. There's a lot which I notice that I do personally at the gym that I don't notice the other guys do, and it's just again
Mm,
like just from what I've done in MMA, like what really worked for me in that, and just sort of carried it over. One thing I do really notice is that my takedowns don't really work anymore because I can't throw punches in between or anything like that.
yeah,
So that's something I've really had to work on now. I'm still really trying to work on now. Um,
yeah.
but Yeah, I think what I really like more than anything is I really was terrified before like I ever fought MMA. Like I'd always like go like me and my coach would have like a few minutes like backstage. I'd always have a little cry, like 'cause I was just so nervous.
Yeah,
And it's nice now going into something else where you're like, this is just different. Like I
yeah,
don't feel the same. Like it's not that same anxiety. It's like
yeah,
I'm doing something that I do every day and actually love. Don't get me wrong, I still get very, very nervous.
yeah,
But it's a very different type. And I think once you've done MMA, it's almost like jiu-jitsu's lovely. So it's almost like, yeah, like believe it or not, it's actually, yeah, it takes a lot of the stress out of it because you've possibly done the worst. That's how I feel.
yeah. Would you recommend anyone to start doing some MMA if they're already on their Brazilian Jiu Jitsu journey?
I wouldn't say it's important. I think if it's something that you actually want to do, then
Yeah,
definitely do it. There's obviously some aspects that I noticed, like when we roll with like the MMA guys, they're like a lot better positionally and stuff
yeah,
like that. I remember I rolled with Chanel Dyer once, and like straight away you could tell that she was from an MMA like background just because like
yeah,
positionally she was just very, very good. And yeah, if ever I roll with any of the MMA guys from our gym, like straight away, it's like not that my jujitsu doesn't work, but it's not the same. They don't play the
yeah,
same game. So
yeah,
I think like it's definitely, if it's something that you wanted to sort of try just to work on those sort of few things, it
yeah,
probably is quite good. Um,
yeah,
but ultimately, I don't think it's like really important. Some of the greatest people out there have never done MMA and just stuck with jiu-jitsu. So I would
yeah.
definitely say it's a preference.
It's something that I've seen the benefit of, not for myself, but for other competitors, and the competitors that do have MMA experience tend to do better. Not necessarily saying that those that haven't got it don't do as well, but there's a different kind of focus fight that I've observed from
Hmm.
MMA fighters when they compete at Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Have you seen that kind of similar approach?
Yeah, do you know what? Like, I would say that I do. I like do it personally. Like, not so much now because I sort of learned a little bit. But I remember like having when I had like one of my matches on Enyo. I remember the first thing I done, like as soon as like it got announced, I was like counting down, like, oh yeah, 6 weeks prep, blah blah blah, at 6 to 8 weeks
Yeah,
prep, and I started like doing all my S&C, like exactly like I would when I had an MMA fight. I was thinking about
yeah,
literally everything the same as how I had an MMA fight. When I actually got to the day,
mm,
I like it. I don't think it served me like any way at all. If I'm honest, I just sort of feel
yeah,
like if anything, it just sort of stressed me out and burnt me out.
yeah,
Um, because jujitsu is just a very different game. So
yeah,
I think like you do have to treat it that bit different. But at the same
yeah,
time, I sort of feel that because I have done that, because I have had the fight camps and stuff like that, the shark tanks and all that sort of thing, like it's made
yeah,
me, like I said, like now going into jujitsu and doing it, it's a pleasure doing it. It
yeah,
is
yeah,
it is quite nice getting like a nice shark tank in jujitsu opposed to MMA. So I
yeah,
feel like and like the intensity as well. Like I'm used to like a very high intensity, so sort of then bringing that to
yeah,
jiu-jitsu, it's good. Yeah, I would say that very much transitions well, but maybe the prep
yeah,
is something that needs to
yeah,
just differ slightly, or find a different way. Maybe find a way that sort of works for you a little more.
yeah. It sounds like the MMA has given you that edge, but equally, having a completely different game. For me, the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is more of a mental game. I often kind of comment and go, it looks like scorpions playing chess because
Mm,
it's a case of positioning, very kind of clever moves, but with that momentum and the kind of fluency of something that is variable throughout the match. How do you go about preparing for something like Polaris 29, because that's your recent event, unless I've missed any others that you've been
No,
involved with.
not quite yet. No. Yeah. So obviously we knew that the girl was very she's coming from B team, so she, she'd have a lot more like
Yeah,
variety to sort of bring to the table and stuff like that, good wrestling and stuff like that. So I worked a lot with Phil Harris leading up to it. He really sort of put me through my paces, really just sort of launching me everywhere, all that sort of thing. And
yeah,
yeah, it was just I personally sort of don't try and sort of read too much into what people are going to do because on the night, like,
yeah,
how often does it change? So, yeah,
yeah,
but I feel like in terms of preparation, I did all I could. Like, unfortunately, it did sort of go the way it did, but yeah, in terms of like actual preparation, I'm really proud of how I done. Like always pick like the hardest people to train with and stuff like that. Like training with Phil was excellent, and getting
yeah.
loads of rounds in. It was really good. It was really enjoyable prep, to be honest.
Yeah. It's so pleasing to hear that Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is enjoyable. That's exactly what I want to hear for my longevity.
Yeah,
I'm now, a relatively new blue belt, and actually, I want my journey to continue. And to hear someone like you say that it's enjoyable just reinforces the fact that it's like you seeing something and going, I want that. And for
mm,
me, I want an enjoyable experience.
yeah,
Maybe not quite so many competitions, but an enjoyable experience that's going to kind of continue me on for, I don't know, years to come. um,
exactly.
what is next for you, in terms of your jiu-jitsu game?
For me, like it's more mental stuff I need to definitely work on. I sort of feel, like I said, even though, like I said, the MMA experience is very different to the jiu-jitsu experience,
Mm,
I still feel that it's always been my mental game that's let me down. Just I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like just because I have this block.
yeah,
When I did Taekwondo, I had no issue at all. Like I'd compete near enough every weekend, and I'd do very well. And then
yeah,
it was almost, I sort of feel what's happened as time's gone on. I just don't like losing, and I think that probably come from doing so well at something to then suddenly
yeah,
like having these sports or these martial arts where you
yeah,
not doesn't really work like that. And and so now it's like I don't like it. I hate
yeah,
losing, but I hate losing
yeah,
so much it actually puts me off doing the thing altogether. So that's
yeah.
something that I really, really want to work on before I compete next. And if
Mhm.
I just maybe compete a little bit more, that might help too.
Yeah.
That's definitely
Mhm.
my goals going forward.
I had a guest, Jada Pedretti, on, and she spoke about competing and giving herself permission. Both her and Barbara Pellegrino, they give themselves permission to feel the way, sadness, anger, whatever emotion that's coming up for 24 hours, and that is
Mm,
it.
yeah,
And that was really helpful, actually, to be able to move on, and kind of progress. Um, they've always got some kind of, key kind of thinking points. What do you think is holding you back, on a mindset issue, with the losing? Is it just purely the winning so much and then not, and then losing?
it's a really bizarre one. Like I said, it's almost I really hate losing. That it just stops me wanting to compete, and that's just
Yeah.
such like a bad way of looking at things.
Mm,
But yeah, it's something that like I was like a super competitive like child, like always have been, and I think as like time's
yeah.
gone on, it's just like more evident how
Yeah.
competitive I am. But the problem is like
Yeah.
that's not going to get me anywhere. So it's like it is something I definitely need to overcome. But it gets to the
Yeah.
point where I don't really want to do it because I'm like, oh, well, I
Yeah.
could lose, like and all that
Yeah.
sort of thing. I get
Yeah.
scared of losing. I almost like, and before you know it, you're sort of defeated before you even get in there because you sort of
Yeah.
you're so focused on the fact that you might lose that then you probably do.
Yeah. I think what you're sharing will resonate with so many individuals that
Mm,
it stops them from actually putting themselves forward to compete
mm,
because of the expectation that they might lose. I think it's really hard to kind of overcome and not put the energy on that win or lose. You
mm,
know, it's cliche with the kind of win or learn. But I think, you know, all of this is about a learning journey that we need to kind of take on board. And as we progress through the years, it's experience and kind of other things. Um,
mm.
how are you supported when you compete, by friends, family, partners? How does that shape your game and your kind of support network?
Oh, it's incredible. Like it is very nice. Like we've got like a like for the last like Polaris, especially because we've had like a few that have been like local to us. Like so when like Phil's competed, just in Southampton, so it's only like 20 minutes up the road from us. And obviously I competed in Southampton on the first Polaris I was on and stuff like that. And then this time Paul. So it's never like too far, thankfully.
Yeah,
So we always have like a nice good crowd that come up. My boyfriend's amazing.
yeah,
Like he's a purple belt, so it's like we train together all the time, getting ready for like for that match. Like we was like putting in the extra sessions, and I've got like a training partner like full time. Like so it's really handy, and I'm sort of doing much the same for him now. So I am very lucky in that sense. But what I do like, I feel that sort of adds to the pressure too.
yeah,
So it's the
yeah,
sort of thing I get so scared of losing, and I just don't want anyone to think that I'm rubbish. Like so
yeah,
that is what puts me off more than anything.
yeah. I think, knowing that they're there supporting you and they just want the best for you, they're there for you come rain or shine, it's a
Exactly.
really
They don't care.
amazing
Like that's the
thing.
thing. They just want you to be
Yeah,
safe and like they're proud of you regardless. And that's something that I definitely need
yeah,
to remember as well. I think I put like a lot of
mm,
different connotations, with everything.
yeah. It's really hard not to give yourself such a hard time because of our own expectations and what we think we should achieve and everything else, as well as kind of maybe peer pressure or external, kind of other factors. But just know that you're doing a fantastic job and, representing, the art of jiu-jitsu for the rest of us to be
Mm.
inspired.
Yeah,
I've
definitely.
certainly been inspired by your journey,
Thank you.
and know that everyone that sees you progress and your matches, we're all there cheering for you and really, absolutely supporting you 100%.
No, I really appreciate that. And that's the thing, like that's more like that I sort of want more than anything, Like I sort of like think that the winning and losing matters. But then when you sort of we've got like obviously like young kids at the gym, like we've got like some like young girls there as well. And when they're like, oh, like you inspire me every day, like that's
Yeah,
really why I do it. The winning or losing, like,
yeah,
isn't the be all and end all. When you hear that, it's like, yeah, I'm glad I can do
yeah.
that for people.
That's amazing. I can't wait to come down to Portsmouth and, meet Colin, because obviously he's been
Yeah.
a previous guest and he's had a couple of name checks over the episodes. And yeah, I, grew up in Salisbury, so Portsmouth is not very
Oh,
far
okay, not powerful. Yeah,
from
not bad
kind
at all.
of where life is. So it would be amazing to come down and, do you host seminars and things like that? Is that your
Yeah, me myself, or like in general at the gym.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, like myself and Kerry Isom, we have done some seminars together. She was my opponent on the first Polaris, but we're really good friends. So
amazing.
yeah, so we've like done some bits together. Yeah, well, I'm always doing everything. Me, like I coach a lot at the gym and stuff. Anyway, I've actually got a with the um, Portsmouth like doorman. Like I've got like a big session with them like shortly. So yeah, so
Oh,
that'll be
wow.
really good. Yeah, so just yeah, just some cool bits. Like I'm being sort of very lucky to do that sort of thing.
Amazing. I will make a trip down. What, is next for you, in your lineup of competitions or, where you want to kind of progress to?
I absolutely love Polaris. Like I really do. Like it. Like I think from like I said, when I went into that, when I first went to the event and I saw it, I was like, this is it for me. This is like the pinnacle. So I, if I can keep aiming for like that sort of like level, and like I appreciate the level is very very high, but I want to be up there, and
Yeah,
so I have to sort of put myself out there and yeah, put myself against these tough opponents. So yeah, like anything like that, I thought, well, I want to get to as high as I can. I want to get as far as I can. So
amazing.
yeah,
Maybe even a CJI too.
could you imagine? That's the thing. Like I saw it when
I
I
just
like first watched it. I was like, that would be a dream.
I'm just putting it out there, Jade. Just putting it out
Yeah,
there.
put it out there to the universe.
Amazing. Jade, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time and how kind of open and speaking about your journey. I wish you all the luck in progressing as far and, even beyond your dreams right now. And hopefully I will come and be part of one of your seminars and attend and learn your expert skills and tuition from in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
No, absolutely. Always welcome. Thank you for having me as well.
Great stuff. Thank you, Jade.
Thank
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for telling your friends about the show. And as soon as this episode ends, I'd really appreciate you dropping the show a rating and a review. Thank you again for listening. Catch you on the next episode of the Jiu Jitsu podcast.